When destiny chooses someone as the chosen one, the world around them does not simply continue as before. Something subtle but decisive begins to shift. The paths they once walked without question suddenly feel unfamiliar. Events that once appeared random start forming a pattern with an unmistakable pull, and the individual, often unaware of what is unfolding, finds themselves standing at the threshold of a narrative they did not choose, but can no longer avoid. This moment, the moment when destiny chooses, is not a loud declaration or a dramatic announcement. It is a quiet transformation, a reorganization of reality that brings with it a new gravitational force. The question, then, is what truly happens when destiny selects an individual for a role far larger than their previous understanding of themselves? To explore this, we begin with the recognition that destiny does not operate through accident. It works through alignment. Before the turning point, a person may believe that their experiences are isolated, disconnected, or coincidental. Yet when destiny chooses them, those experiences begin to converge. What once seemed like separate fragments slowly reveal themselves as pieces of a single, coherent trajectory. Challenges from the past become preparation. Encounters that felt insignificant begin to carry new meaning. Moments of disruption transform into essential shifts, pushing them toward an unavoidable horizon. This alignment is the first sign that destiny has intervened. It does not force itself loudly. It simply rearranges the structure of events so that the person finds themselves drawn forward by a logic they did not design. Another profound change occurs within the chosen one's perception. Life no longer responds to their previous expectations. Paths that used to open easily begin to close. Things that once motivated them begin to lose their weight. At the same time, new impulses arise, strange, insistent, and impossible to ignore. These impulses feel like whispers from a direction they cannot yet see, urging them to move, to grow, to question, to shed the versions of themselves they once clung to. When destiny chooses someone, the internal landscape shifts just as dramatically as the external one. The person begins to feel a tension between who they have been and who they are being shaped to become. Their old identity cannot contain the weight of the new direction. The logic of their previous life dissolves, replaced by a deeper and more compelling order that demands transformation. This is the essence of being chosen, a point where personal intention becomes intertwined with a larger narrative force. The chosen one does not wake up with immediate clarity. Instead, they wake up to disruption, the kind that dismantles their familiar patterns and pushes them towards something they do not yet understand. Destiny's selection is not about empowerment at first, it is about reorientation. It shifts the ground beneath their feet, alters the meaning of their relationships, and reframes the challenges they face. They begin to sense that they are moving towards something significant, even if they cannot yet articulate what it is. Whether they welcome it or resist it, the transformation continues because destiny does not choose without purpose. As this introduction closes, take a moment to support the channel so these explorations can continue to unfold. Like the video, share it with someone who may resonate with its message, and subscribe to stay connected as we dive deeper into the architecture of destiny, transformation, and the chosen one journey. When destiny chooses someone, the first evidence rarely appears within the person themselves. Instead, it shows up in the environment around them. This external transformation is subtle at first, but persistent, accumulating into a force that becomes impossible to ignore. The chosen one begins to notice that the world no longer interacts with them in the same way it once did. Patterns shift, familiar structures destabilize, situations unfold with a sense of direction that feels orchestrated, even if the individual cannot yet identify by whom or by what. This shift in circumstances is the earliest visible sign that destiny has stepped in, and it operates with precision. It is not chaos, even though it may feel like it. It is intentional redirection. At the core of this external shift is movement. Before destiny intervenes, a person's life tends to follow predictable rhythms. They make choices based on habit, routine, or immediate desire. Their environment responds in equally predictable ways. But when destiny chooses them, the environment no longer supports stagnation. Situations arise that push them forward, pull them out of complacency, or demand decisions they cannot delay. This movement is often uncomfortable, because it breaks the equilibrium the person once relied on. But the discomfort is not random, it is the mechanism through which destiny forces them out of a life that can no longer contain their potential. A striking aspect of this shift is how once simple choices begin to carry unexpected weight. Decisions that previously felt low stakes suddenly become pivotal. A conversation, an opportunity, a moment of hesitation, or a slight change in direction can alter the trajectory of their path. These choices feel heavier, not because the chosen one has changed internally, but because destiny has begun weaving meaning into the external world. The environment starts responding to their actions as if aware of their significance. The chosen one may not understand why, but they can sense that the margin for indifference is shrinking. Their decisions echo in ways they have never experienced before. Coincidences also transform. What once appeared accidental begins to take on the quality of intentional design. Encounters with certain people become strangely timely. Situations align in ways that seem improbable. A piece of information arrives precisely when needed, or a challenge emerges that connects directly to something unresolved within the chosen one's life. These moments do not reveal destiny outright, but they signal its presence. The chosen one may question whether these alignments are coincidences or signs, and though they cannot fully answer the question, they instinctively feel the latter pulling at them. The environment becomes a silent communicator, guiding them toward a new path through the orchestration of events that feel too interconnected to dismiss. Another dimension of this shift is destabilization. Parts of the chosen one's life begin to unravel. Structures that once supported them weaken, routines break apart, relationships change direction or dissolve. Comfort zones that once felt secure begin to deteriorate. At first, this may feel like loss, failure, or collapse. But within the architecture of destiny, this destabilization serves a purpose. The chosen one cannot step onto their destined path while anchored to an outdated version of their life. The environment begins removing what can no longer accompany them. This is not a punishment, it is a clearing. The dismantling of old patterns creates space for new ones, even if the individual does not yet understand what those new patterns will be. A powerful example of this external shift occurs when the chosen one finds themselves repeatedly pushed into situations that challenge their former identity. They may be placed in roles they did not seek, or handed responsibilities they did not ask for. They may encounter conflicts that force them to act in ways they have never acted before. These situations are catalysts. They create conditions in which the chosen one must stretch, adapt, and confront aspects of themselves that their previous environment never demanded. Destiny intervenes by placing them in circumstances that require growth, whether they feel ready or not. The shift in circumstances often represents the first stage of destiny's testing. Through these external changes, destiny assesses how the chosen one reacts when stability is removed. Does the individual cling to the familiar even as it collapses? Do they resist change until the pressure becomes unbearable? Or do they begin to sense the direction of movement and allow themselves to be carried forward by it? Destiny is not merely observing, it is creating the conditions necessary for the chosen one to awaken. The environment becomes a field of calibration, designed to reveal the individual's adaptability and readiness. This transformation also impacts the chosen one's external relationships. People around them begin to treat them differently, often without understanding why. Some relationships deepen unexpectedly, as if certain individuals are drawn into the chosen one's orbit at the exact moment they are needed. Others drift away or break entirely, sometimes abruptly. The chosen one may feel abandoned, misunderstood, or unsupported, but this rearrangement serves a deeper function. Destiny removes those who would hinder the journey and brings forward those who will play crucial roles in the unfolding narrative. Though painful, this recalibration is precise, and it aligns the chosen one's external network with the demands of the coming path. Opportunities also begin to shift. Doors that remained closed for years may suddenly open, while others, once wide and inviting, shut without warning. These shifts force the chosen one to reconsider their direction. They cannot rely solely on past strategies or expectations. The environment becomes fluid, guiding them through openings that lead toward transformation and away from paths that no longer serve their evolution. These shifts are not random fluctuations, they are signals. The chosen one is being moved, not by chance, but by alignment. One of the most defining features of this external shift is that it cuts off the possibility of returning to the old life. Even if the chosen one tries to retreat into familiar routines, the environment resists. The job that once satisfied them becomes suffocating. The relationships that once defined them no longer resonate. The goals they once pursued lose their meaning. Attempts to remain who they were feel forced, awkward, or impossible. This resistance is destiny's way of saying that the old chapter has closed. The chosen one does not always understand this immediately, but the environment makes it increasingly undeniable. Through all of these changes, a central pattern emerges. Destiny uses external transformation to initiate internal transformation. The chosen one is not yet fully aware of their calling, but their environment is already preparing them for it. They are being pushed, redirected, and aligned by forces beyond their conscious control. This phase is disorienting because the chosen one does not yet have the clarity that will come later. All they can feel is movement, a pull forward, a push outward, a sense that life is reshaping itself with or without their consent. This shift in circumstances is destiny's first declaration. It announces, without words, that the chosen one's life has crossed an invisible threshold. Everything that happens from this point forward carries meaning, momentum, and direction. The world around them is no longer neutral, it is responsive. The chosen one may feel overwhelmed or confused, but they are not lost. They are being positioned. And although they cannot yet articulate the significance of this positioning, destiny has already begun the process of guiding them toward the path that only they can walk. Once the external world begins to shift around the chosen one, a deeper and more intimate transformation emerges from within. This transformation is not triggered by outside forces, though it may coincide with them. It arises independently, quietly at first, then with increasing intensity. It feels like a pull, a pressure, or a persistent presence moving beneath the surface of the chosen one's consciousness. This is the inner calling. It is the second and most defining stage of destiny's intervention, for it signals that the individual is no longer simply being pushed by circumstance, but is now being drawn by something internal, something rooted in the core of who they are becoming. The inner calling does not manifest as a clear instruction or a neatly articulated purpose. It rarely reveals the final destination. Instead, it announces itself as an undeniable feeling that the chosen one can no longer continue living within the boundaries of their old identity. It begins with subtle discomforts, those quiet moments when they look at their life and sense that something fundamental is out of alignment. Activities that once satisfied them begin to feel hollow. Goals they once pursued wholeheartedly feel strangely distant. Even the rhythms of daily life lose their coherence. This internal dissonance is not depression or confusion. It is the early signal that their identity is being stretched beyond its previous limits. As the calling intensifies, the chosen one begins to question everything they previously believed about themselves. They question their strengths, their fears, their limitations, and even the meaning of their past experiences. This questioning is not destructive, it is revealing. It exposes the cracks in the identity they once took for granted. Through this process, the chosen one begins to recognize that the person they believed themselves to be may not be the person they truly are, or the person they must become. Their past identity becomes too small to contain the emerging sense of direction rising within them. This pressure to evolve does not come from external demands. It is not driven by the opinions of others or by societal expectations. It arises from a deeper internal source that seems to speak with an authority that the chosen one cannot ignore. They may not understand it, but they feel it. It does not seek permission. It does not wait for readiness. It simply insists. The chosen one begins to sense that something within them is awakening, something that does not fit within the confines of their old self-concept. This is not ambition. Ambition desires achievement. The inner calling desires alignment. The calling often brings restlessness. The chosen one feels as though their current life is a container that has become too constricted. They experience an urge to move, to change, to seek, even if they cannot articulate what they are seeking. This restlessness may lead them to explore new ideas, new environments, or new relationships. They might gravitate toward books, stories, or people that resonate with themes of transformation or purpose. They begin searching for meaning, not out of curiosity, but out of necessity. They are being pulled towards something they cannot yet name, but they sense its importance. Alongside restlessness comes intuition. The chosen one develops a heightened sensitivity to internal signals. Decisions they once made through logic alone now involve a deeper, instinctive awareness. They begin to trust impulses that feel strangely informed, as if guided by a perspective that sees farther than their conscious mind. This intuition is a crucial part of the inner calling. It acts as a compass within a landscape that has not yet revealed itself. Even though the chosen one does not know where the path leads, they sense which direction feels alive and which direction feels dead. This intuitive clarity is destiny's voice speaking from within. The inner calling also disrupts the chosen one's relationship with comfort. What once felt safe now feels stagnant. Stability begins to feel like confinement. Familiarity becomes a barrier rather than a refuge. The chosen one may feel guilty or conflicted about this shift, especially if their old life was built on relationships, routines, or responsibilities they once valued deeply. But the calling does not negotiate with comfort. It demands honesty. It forces the chosen one to acknowledge that remaining where they are is no longer an option if they want to remain true to themselves. As the internal shift deepens, the chosen one may experience moments of clarity, brief glimpses of who they could become. These moments may come through dreams, conversations, challenges, or quiet reflection. They may feel a sudden surge of purpose that fades just as quickly, leaving behind a lingering sense of direction. These glimpses are important because they reveal the potential forming beneath the surface. The chosen one begins to understand that the calling is not trying to destroy their identity, but to expand it. It is attempting to activate parts of their character that were dormant, restrained, or unrecognized. A critical aspect of the inner calling is the emotional pressure it generates. This pressure is not anxiety, though it may be mistaken for it. It is the psychological sensation of being pushed through a narrow passage, as if the chosen one is outgrowing the structure of their previous self. This emotional intensity compels them to confront truths they would prefer to avoid. They must acknowledge fears they have long ignored. They must reconsider beliefs that once felt unshakable. They must face the possibility that their life was only a prelude to the role that destiny is preparing for them. This confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is also transformative. It dissolves the illusions that keep them anchored to a past identity and makes room for the one emerging. The calling also introduces a new form of responsibility, not one imposed by external forces, but one felt internally. The chosen one begins to sense that their life carries weight beyond their immediate concerns. They feel responsible for something larger, something not yet defined but undeniably significant. This responsibility is the early formation of purpose. It is the recognition that their choices matter in a deeper way than before. This recognition becomes the psychological engine driving them forward. It gives their actions a new dimension of meaning, even if they cannot articulate why those actions matter. As the chosen one continues responding to this inner pull, they begin to make decisions that reflect the person they are becoming, rather than the person they have been. These decisions may appear irrational to others because they are not based on external logic. They are based on internal necessity. The chosen one is aligning with destiny, even if the path is unclear. They may leave behind situations that once defined them, pursue opportunities that seem unfamiliar, or speak truths they previously concealed. These choices represent the beginning of conscious participation in their transformation. The inner calling also generates a sense of inevitability. The chosen one begins to feel that their life is moving towards something unavoidable. This does not mean they lose agency. Rather, they begin to understand that their agency is guiding them toward a role that resonates so deeply with their emerging identity that resisting it becomes impossible. They sense that if they ignore the calling, something essential within them will remain unfulfilled. This sense of inevitability is destiny's imprint on their consciousness. Ultimately, the inner calling is the moment when the chosen one stops being shaped only by external circumstances and begins being shaped by their own awakening. It is the force that transforms pressure into purpose, confusion into curiosity, and identity into evolution. It is the psychological engine that pushes them toward their inevitable role, not through force, but through resonance. The chosen one moves forward because something within them recognizes the path as their own, long before they fully understand where it leads. Acceptance is the pivotal moment in the chosen one's journey, the point where the internal calling and the external shifts converge to form a single, undeniable truth. The path ahead is no longer a matter of preference, but a matter of alignment. This moment does not always arrive with clarity or confidence. In many cases, it is approached with hesitation, reluctance, or even resistance. Yet the chosen one eventually reaches a threshold where the weight of the calling becomes stronger than the pull of their former life. This is the moment of acceptance, the turning point where destiny stops being an external force acting upon them and becomes a role they willingly step into. Acceptance rarely comes suddenly. Most chosen ones navigate through a long period of internal conflict before they reach this point. They wrestle with fear, uncertainty, and the lingering attachment to who they used to be. The old identity does not fade quietly. It clings, attempts to retain control, and argues that the familiar world is safer, more predictable, and less demanding. But the calling persists, growing louder as the chosen one grows quieter, urging them toward a life that requires far more than they once imagined. The conflict between what was and what must be becomes increasingly unsustainable. This inner tension creates the pressure necessary for acceptance to emerge. As the chosen one moves closer to acceptance, they begin recognizing the irreversible changes within themselves. They see that their perspective has shifted, often in subtle ways. Situations that once held meaning now feel empty. Roles that once defined them feel restrictive. The desires that once guided their decisions no longer resonate. They experience a widening gap between who they were and who they are becoming, and they realize that returning to the old version of themselves is no longer possible. This realization is often painful because it requires letting go of identities that provided stability, relationships that offered comfort, and assumptions that shaped their worldview. But this letting go is essential. Acceptance begins with release. There is also a sense of inevitability that forms during this stage. The chosen one starts recognizing that each event in their life has been leading to this moment. What once seemed like random fragments now appear as pieces of a deliberate sequence. Encounters, losses, opportunities, and disruptions begin to make sense in retrospect. Acceptance becomes easier when the chosen one sees that destiny has been shaping their path long before they were aware of it. They are not stepping into an unfamiliar story. They are stepping into the story that has been unfolding quietly beneath the surface of their life. Destiny has already chosen them. Acceptance is the moment they choose destiny in return. Another catalyst for acceptance is the recognition of responsibility. The chosen one begins to understand that their calling is connected to something larger than their own desires or fears. They sense that their actions carry consequences, not only for themselves, but for others. This awareness can be overwhelming, yet it also provides clarity. Responsibility becomes the bridge between destiny and personal will. The chosen one realizes that stepping into their role is not about achieving greatness or fulfilling an ego-driven fantasy. It is about honoring the deeper purpose that has taken root within them, a purpose that extends beyond personal comfort. This recognition often dissolves resistance, because the chosen one begins to feel that turning away would be a betrayal, not only of destiny, but of their own emerging truth. Acceptance also involves courage, but not the dramatic kind associated with heroic stories. It is a quieter, more internal courage, the courage to allow transformation, to confront fear without surrendering to it, and to step into uncertainty with the understanding that uncertainty is part of the path. The chosen one does not wait until fear disappears, because they realize that waiting for complete comfort would leave them standing still forever. Instead, they accept that fear will travel with them, but it will not dictate their direction. This shift in relationship to fear marks a defining moment in acceptance. The chosen one acknowledges fear without obeying it. Another key element of acceptance is the chosen one's realization that the journey ahead requires authenticity. They cannot become who they are meant to be while clinging to false versions of themselves. Acceptance demands honesty about their strengths, weaknesses, wounds, and aspirations. It demands that they stop hiding behind excuses or identities that no longer serve their evolution. The chosen one recognizes that authenticity is not a luxury. It is a requirement for the role destiny has designed for them. Once this truth settles into place, acceptance begins to feel less like a burden and more like liberation. There is often a specific moment that crystallizes acceptance, though it may not be dramatic. It could be a conversation that shifts their perspective, an event that confirms their path, a loss that removes the last anchor to their old life, or a quiet moment of clarity that emerges in solitude. In that moment, the chosen one feels the undeniable click of alignment. They understand, perhaps for the first time, that their journey is not something happening to them, but something happening through them. This understanding transforms the calling from an external force into an internal commitment. With acceptance comes a sense of direction. The chosen one may not know the full path ahead, but they understand the next step. Destiny does not reveal the entire journey at once. It reveals enough to move forward. This partial clarity is not a flaw, it is a safeguard. Too much knowledge would overwhelm, too little would paralyze. Acceptance allows the chosen one to trust that each step will illuminate the next. The chosen one begins moving with intention, guided by a sense of inner alignment rather than external certainty. This is where destiny and personal will converge. Destiny provides the path, personal will provides the movement. Acceptance also brings a shift in energy. The chosen one feels a new internal steadiness, a quiet resolve that was not present before. Even if the path remains unclear, they no longer feel lost. They feel anchored in purpose, connected to a force that transcends their individual limitations. This energy marks the true beginning of transformation. Until acceptance, the chosen one is simply reacting to destiny's influence. After acceptance, they become an active participant in their own evolution. Their steps become deliberate, their choices become infused with meaning. Their actions begin to reflect the identity they are becoming, rather than the identity they are leaving behind. This stage of acceptance also introduces a new relationship with destiny. The chosen one no longer sees destiny as an external force disrupting their life. They see it as a partnership, a collaboration between who they are and who they are meant to be. This collaborative mindset empowers them. They stop asking why this is happening to them and begin asking how they can move with it. They stop resisting and begin shaping their role consciously. They begin to understand that destiny never sought to control them, it sought to awaken them. Acceptance completes that awakening. Finally, acceptance marks the moment when the chosen one steps into the narrative fully. They may still have doubts, fears, and questions, but these no longer hold them back. They embrace the truth that their life is part of something larger, something that requires their presence, courage, and evolution. This acceptance is not the end of their struggle, it is the beginning of their purpose. It is the first conscious step into a journey that will test, shape, and elevate them into the person they were always meant to become. As this journey draws to a close, the architecture of destiny's intervention becomes unmistakably clear. When destiny chooses someone as the chosen one, the transformation does not happen in a single moment. It unfolds through three distinct but interconnected shifts that reshape both the person and the world around them. The first shift occurs in the external landscape. Circumstances begin to realign in ways the chosen one cannot ignore. Events that once felt disconnected begin forming a coherent pattern. Situations that once offered stability break apart, creating movement where there was once stillness. The environment stops cooperating with the old version of their life and instead begins guiding them, sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully, toward a new trajectory. This realignment serves as destiny's earliest signal, a subtle restructuring of the world that nudges the chosen one toward the threshold of transformation. The second shift takes place within, where the chosen one begins to experience an awakening of awareness. This awakening is not merely emotional or intellectual, it is existential. An internal pull emerges, a calling that grows stronger with every step. The chosen one starts questioning the identity they once lived inside, sensing that it no longer fits. Restlessness rises from the places where their spirit feels confined. Intuition sharpens, pushing them to act in ways that defy their old logic. The inner world becomes charged with the awareness that something significant is unfolding beneath the surface. This awakening is destiny speaking from within, guiding them toward alignment with a role they have not yet fully understood, but have already begun to embody. The third shift is acceptance, the moment when the chosen one acknowledges that the journey ahead is no longer optional. It is the convergence of destiny's influence and personal will. By the time acceptance arrives, the chosen one has already outgrown the life they once knew. They recognize that their role is not about self-fulfillment alone, but about connecting to something larger, something that carries meaning beyond personal boundaries. Acceptance marks the beginning of conscious transformation. It is the point where the chosen one chooses the path that had already chosen them. It is the moment where the weight of responsibility becomes the anchor of purpose. Together, these three shifts, realigned circumstances, awakened awareness, and accepted responsibility, create the blueprint of becoming. They form the process through which destiny transforms an ordinary individual into someone capable of carrying extraordinary purpose. This pattern is not confined to myths or stories. It mirrors the deeper movements of human life. Destiny may not appear in dramatic signs, but its influence often reveals itself in the same three stages. People find themselves pushed out of comfort, pulled into introspection, and guided toward roles they did not expect but cannot deny. As the video closes, consider this as an invitation to reflect on your own life. Think about the moments when everything around you seemed to shift at once. Think about the periods when your inner world felt louder than your outer world. Think about the times when you sensed that your path was changing, even before you understood why. Perhaps those moments were not random disruptions. Perhaps they were signals, subtle, powerful, and intentional, calling you toward a version of yourself you have not yet fully stepped into. If this message resonates with you, support the channel so these explorations can continue. Like the video, share it with someone who may need to hear this perspective, and subscribe to stay connected to upcoming content on destiny, transformation, and the deeper forces shaping the journey of becoming.